we just kind of slowly drifted apart.
Mm.
And yeah, and I was becoming more critical and more resentful. I really resented his work. And then I came to a point where I kind of resented every little thing about him, poor guy. Until one particular night, we were supposed to be on a date. We were alone. We sat in our farm truck and we were outside our favorite restaurant. And I looked at him and I said, I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And he looked at me and I could see that panic in his eyes. Like, what do you
Mm.
mean? Yeah, what do you mean you can't do this anymore? And I said to him, I can't do marriage like this anymore. Like, we just keep hurting each other and we don't resolve anything. We're just going around and around the same old thing.
Mm.
And I'm so tired and I am so hurt.
Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the Beautifully Broken Me podcast. Our conversations are centered on helping you tap into your authentic superpowers where you can become your truest, authentic self. Do you want more out of your life? Do you desire a life where you can flourish freely and live a life of peace, joy, and abundance? Leveraging on all of your life experiences and using them as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block? My guest will definitely challenge your thinking, giving you practical and relatable tools to be more, do more, and have more. My name is Nabo IJ. I want to officially welcome you to the show. Before I bring on my guest, I just want you guys to know that I have a small gig, I have a small business. It is called Noble IJ Collections. Noble IJ Collection is an online store. We specialize on all kinds of hats, fancy hats, derby hats, church hats, party hats, wedding hats, fashion hats. Please do well to support my small business. Check out the link on my show note. Hello and welcome to this very incredible episode of the Beautifully Broken Me podcast. I have with me here Anna Visser. She's a coach, she's a speaker, she's a trainer. Honestly, guys, she has been in marriage for 41 years. 41 years. Oh my God, I had to scream that out loud because it is a big deal. It's a big deal because we've seen marriage crash after 6 months, 2 years. My marriage packed up after 7, 8 years. So, really, guys, 41 years of marriage, it's a big deal. I want to officially welcome you, Anna, to the Beautifully Broken Me podcast.
Thank you so much, Noble. It is a pleasure to meet you. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So honestly, I know I'm really excited, so thrilled to hear that, you've been 41 years in marriage, and I just really want you to jump right on. Tell us about the story and just introduce yourself, Yeah.
Absolutely. I have been married to Melis, my husband, for 41 years, and we have 5 beautiful children, and we have 5 beautiful in-laws as well, and 11 grandchildren, which are such a joy and a delight. I really do what I do as a coach, speaker, and trainer because my husband and I, we found new hope after our marriage had crashed. My friend calls it creeping separateness, and I really like that term because we just kind of gradually, there was this emotional space between us, and it kind of snuck up on us, but it didn't start out that way. I married my high school sweetheart, and I met him one summer.
Oh.
Yeah, I met him one summer. I literally could not outrun him. And he caught me and threw me in the water, and I'm not so sure what was so sexy about that, but I was completely taken with this guy. And when we went back to school, I was writing him notes. I just wanted a date. I was just head over heels. And then at 18, we married, and I still remember the photographer saying to us, he said, I have never seen a couple look at each other the way the two of you look at each other. And we were just crazy in love. And then life circumstances, they kind of caught up to us. So my husband, Melis, he was new to farming, brand new. He knew nothing. And he was starting out a brand new career, and he was also learning from his dad. And there were challenges in that relationship as well. And he often came home frustrated from work. And I would wonder, what did I do? As a young bride, I was like, what happened? What did I do? I thought it was me. In the meantime, I was pregnant. I got pregnant 1 month after we were married, and I was so incredibly sick. I spent those first months on the couch, so sick. But neither of us really knew how to communicate what was going on inside of us. It was a really tough way to start marriage. And then fast forward 5 kiddos later, we had 5 children in 6 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I just want that one to land for your audience a little bit because
Whoa, 5 children in 6 years. Oh my
yeah,
God.
I love being a mom, but it was busy. It was really crazy with kids and diapers and farm life and sleepless nights. And we just kind of slowly drifted apart.
Mm.
And I was becoming more critical and more resentful. I really resented his work. And then I came to a point where I kind of resented every little thing about him, poor guy, because he's a good man. But I was resenting him in a big way until one particular night we were supposed to be on a date. We were alone. We sat in our farm truck and we were outside our favorite restaurant. And I looked at him and I said, I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And he looked at me and I could see that panic in his eyes. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean you can't do this anymore? And I said to him, I can't do marriage like this anymore. Like, we just keep hurting each other and we don't resolve anything. We're just going around and around the same old thing.
Mm.
And I'm so tired and I am so hurt. And he really heard me that night. He heard my heart. And then for the first time in a long time, he shared his heart with me. And I hadn't even seen his pain because I was so wrapped up in my own pain.
Mm.
Yeah, so wrapped up in me. But that night, we recommitted to each other that we would get the help that we needed to get better. And we had committed to each other when we married that
Mhm.
when we run into trouble, because that's what I tell new married couples now. I said, when you run into trouble, go for help, get the help that you need to get better. But we wanted to close that emotional distance that had crept into our marriage.
Mm.
And so I'm here with you today, and I do what I do because of that really pivotal conversation that he and I had that night.
Wow. Honestly, like we want to hear that conversation. And honestly, like I just want to know, like, you're so big on communication, very big on communication. We just want to know, like, what was that conversation all about? And how can we really have healthy conversations with our spouse in order to build a healthy relationship?
One of the first skills that we learned, one of the first important mindset shifts that I had to make was that conflict is the doorway to intimacy.
Mm.
We learned that from Gary Smalley, Dr. Gary Smalley. He was our first marriage mentor. Never met the guy, but his book impacted us so much because we not only read it, we applied it.
Mhm.
Reading alone, learning alone doesn't change anything, but we started to apply the lessons that he was teaching us to conflict in better ways and to be able to share it assertively, not aggressively, and not avoiding, because we were both avoidant. Actually, we both avoided conflict, which was what brought us to this conversation, where I actually shared my heart with him. And I had been avoiding that because I was afraid of hurting him. And he had been avoiding it because he was afraid of hurting me. And avoiding conflict is one of the big reasons for divorce, because we need to have these pivotal conversations in order to be better together. And so it's not something to be afraid of, it's something to embrace. And we learned from Dr. Smalley, the way that you have that pivotal conversation will make all the difference to whether it brings you closer together or further apart.
So, what are those examples of the conversations? Like, and what are the moods? Like, do we have to say it like eyeball to eyeball, holding hands? Is there a way, style, format that we could have this pivotal conversations?
I am so glad you asked that question, because it doesn't have to be eyeball to eyeball. It's more about heart to heart.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that conversation, that pivotal conversation, I'm sharing what I'm really feeling. I remember a time when I was we were driving down the road, and he likes to go fast, faster than I like. It was a icy road. I live in Eastern Canada, Noble, where we have lots of icy roads.
Whoa.
And it was an icy road, and I said to him, I don't feel safe when you drive this fast on these road conditions.
Mm.
That's a pivotal conversation. We had this conversation many times, but it didn't go like this because I didn't start like this. Usually I say, "You're
Mm.
going too fast."
Okay.
Immediately when a woman says that, it's received as criticism.
Mm.
"You're going too fast." And instead, this time I said to him, "I don't feel safe. I'm sharing my feelings. And I'm sharing my concern when roads are this icy, and I shared what I really want. I really want you to slow down." He immediately looked at me and he said, "I want you to feel safe with me."
Mm.
And I looked at him like, this is not the way this conversation goes. Like, usually you just speed up or you ignore me. That's not the way this goes. And he said, "I want you to feel safe with
Mm.
me," because I was able to share assertively what I'm
Mm.
feeling, what I really am concerned, or like what I
Mhm.
really care about, and what I really wanted. And that's what a pivotal conversation sounds like, when we're able to get to the heart of the matter and we can hear each other's heart. And it was a little bit of a tense moment. That's what a pivotal conversation is. It's going to be a little bit tense because people care about what they're talking about.
Mm.
I cared about my safety and his. And so that's what a pivotal conversation is. And it doesn't mean eyeball to eyeball, but it means heart to heart. And it means listening to hear each other's heart in the matter.
Wow, this is really so incredible. So I don't have to say, you often do this all the time. I keep saying this, you stop. From what I'm getting from this, what you just said, right? Instead of saying, you do this, can you stop doing this? You're driving too fast. Anything that has to do with you, it's often interpreted the wrong way, right? So instead of saying that, we can just reward our conversation in a way that, you know, gets to the heart of the matter. More like saying, I don't feel safe when you do this. Wow, that's really a good one. Can you give us more, like maybe one more?
Sure, absolutely. In a pivotal conversation, it's really important to be able to check your emotions. In unhealthy relationships, emotions go wild. And so we
Mm.
get really angry, or we get really jealous, or we are really sad all the time, or we're in the middle of grief and we don't know how to process that grief, and it starts to spill over into everything else in our lives.
Mhm.
So in healthy relationships, we learn to check our emotions so that we can manage those emotions, so that we can not be so volatile in the
Mm.
midst of an important pivotal conversation. And that way it lands better for the other person.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, what we really want in a pivotal conversation is to deepen the relationship, not to bring it farther apart, but to bring it closer together. So when I can check those emotions, and I can do that by noticing the pattern of behavior in me.
Mhm.
So again, we're not talking about destructive relationships. We're
Mhm.
talking about relationships that are healthier, or
Mhm.
that are maybe difficult and you've run into a difficult place and you need
Mhm.
to have pivotal conversations. But so I can begin to see the pattern of behavior in me and in the other person. So maybe when I get in with a strong person,
Mhm.
I kind of fade away and I retract and I don't say what I really mean
Okay.
or what I really think. Or maybe when we get into the situation, for instance, with our in-laws,
Mhm.
maybe I'm triggered and I am upset and I respond emotionally. So once I see that pattern, then I can kind of get in front of that situation and I can process. I love to process through what I'm feeling in my journaling.
Mhm.
It's really helpful to process through, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What is it that I really want here?
Mm.
What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And what do I really want? Because what I really want in my marriage is to be close and connected.
Mm.
So if what I really want in my marriage is to be close and connected, if I'm responding explosively with a lot of anger, I'm probably not going to get that close connection that I really want.
Absolutely.
So maybe I can approach it a different way, a
Mhm.
softer way. Dr. John Gottman talks about soft startups and how important they are to the beginning of that conversation determines the outcome of the conversation.
Mm.
So when I approached him, like you noticed that feeling, I approached him with not you drive too fast, but when we go this fast, I don't feel safe.
Mm.
I started with, I don't feel safe when we go too fast. And when we can start that way, it's a soft startup and it can land better. And I can check my own emotions so that I don't explode at the other person. It's kind of like emotional vomit, right? When we
Mhm.
explode at the other person, that's really graphic, isn't it? But I'm sure you've been on the other end of that sometimes, Noble, where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, what just happened here? You just
Absolutely.
spilled all
Mhm.
over me and I don't even know what's going on.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. We have to constantly check ourselves, where's all this coming from? And again, you mentioned emotional vomit, and sometimes when we're not in check with our emotions, we want to spill out a lot of things, and it just like, oh my god. And sometimes when we say those things, we're just like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. And that is so key. So let's just dive right into our topic: healthy versus unhealthy conversations or relationships. Can you just tell us more? You're going to be telling us about the healthy aspect of it, and then just touch on the unhealthy so that we can be able to like marry them all together.
Sure. Can I start with the unhealthy and
Absolutely.
wrap it up with the healthy? So in unhealthy relationships, people deny their impact on you.
Mm.
So instead of taking responsibility for what they say, what they do, and even what they think, because
Mhm.
what I think spills out into my words,
Mhm.
that's very biblical. What I think spills out into my words. And so healthy people take responsibility, but unhealthy people, they put it back on you. This is your
Mhm.
problem. You
Mm.
so they don't see how their behavior impacts you, and they have this pattern of devaluing you and to get what they want. That's unhealthy.
Mm.
Number 1. Number 2, they're easily triggered, so they don't know how to manage their emotions,
Mm.
and they may use their emotions against you. Instead, we can use our emotions to bless other people, to help other people, when we're being empathetic. But the unhealthy person, they use their emotions against you so that they can't even have the pivotal conversation that we talked about earlier that every healthy relationship needs to have.
Mhm.
And instead, they may use threats against you. For instance, they might say something like, well, if you do that, I'm not going to go to the party with you.
Mm.
So that threat, instead of having a pivotal conversation about, I'm feeling really uncomfortable going to this party because there's the concern and this is what I really want, and having that healthy dialogue instead of those threats.
Wow.
Number 3, underneath it all, I really believe that unhealthy, um, they will not change.
Mm.
They want you to do the changing. They want you to do all the changing. They're not going to change. They don't acknowledge what they're saying or what they're doing or what they're that's actually hurting you. They don't even
Mhm.
see it, but they will not change and they will not work with you. And so you find yourself coming back to the same conversation over and over and over again without any change.
Wow.
So in addictions theory, they call it promises and presence. So they make you promises that, yes, I'll change, especially when they see you walking out the door, because they want to keep you in relationship. So they
Mm.
make those promises. I'm going to change. Promise I won't do that anymore. I won't hurt you anymore. I'm so sorry. And then they bring you presents like, flowers or whatever, or chocolate bar,
Mhm.
just to make it better, but without any real change. The very next day, they're back at it again.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah. So this is what unhealthy looks like and what unhealthy does. It's completely different when you're in a healthy relationship with
Honest,
with imperfect people, by the way.
honestly, like you just kind of mentioned like the unhealthy relationship, and like before we started recording, I had mentioned a little bit about my story, and everything you mentioned was just like checking mark, checking, right? And since I left this relationship in 2018, I haven't been in any other relationship because I am trying to get to know myself much better. And everything you're saying was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like it's what it is. And I I want you to tell us what a healthy aspect looks like because I don't know what it is. My
Mm.
experiences has been with an unhealthy relationship. I haven't dated anybody else. He was my first relationship. So this will really kind of like be beneficial to me because I will get to know, okay, this is what the healthy relationship is, and this is what I have to look out for. This is what I have to be, watchful and observe. I'm still in that journey of, discovering myself and self awareness, and this is really going to be a big one for me, really. So yes, can we hear that?
Can I just say, first of all, Noble, I love that you're taking the time to process and to get to know yourself better. And I think that in the midst of that, I think that's what we all need to do when we've been in unhealthy relationships, and we all get into those relationships. And so I think you're doing the absolute very best thing for you to then be able to recognize what is healthy and unhealthy. Because when we get into those unhealthy relationships, it becomes a system and it kind of cements itself, and we become a part of it. And so we kind of untangle it and pull ourselves apart from it and get new perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing. This is brilliant job. Brilliant. So, yeah, number one, healthy people see how they hurt other people.
Mm.
So they see that look on your face that says, ouch, like, what you just said, that really hurt me. Or when someone else, when they hurt you, they hear your words saying, you know what, that feels really disrespectful. When you talk to me in that tone, I feel like a little kid, and I am your peer. We are peer to peer here. And
Mhm.
so I want to be treated with respect with your words and your tone. And that person see when they hear your words and they respond to it by making adjustments and changes. I remember my husband, I said to him, he gives me permission to tell these stories because he knows it blesses other people. So we don't tell stories about each other that we don't have the blessing on. That's healthy, by the way. He, he said he was given the look. When he gave the look, I felt disgusting to him. He said, I don't know what I'm doing. He said, I want to give you permission. When you see that look, you tell me, because I want to know what it is that I'm doing that is
Mm.
causing you to feel that way, because I don't want you to feel that way.
Oh wow.
That's healthy,
Wow. And one of the
right?
things too that you said also that I want to just say it's healthy was when you were telling him that I don't feel safe when you drive this way. And then he accepted what you said and said, I want you to feel safe with me. That's healthy. I just want to add that too.
Doesn't that make you want to cry? Noble, that makes me want to cry just as you say it back to
Absolutely.
me.
So true.
Because I think women, and men too, we all want to feel safe in our relationships.
Mhm.
We want to feel safe to think,
Mhm.
safe to be, safe to allow God to pull out all the beauty that's inside.
So
And
also,
when I see women in those relationships, they are like flowers that just bloom. It's amazing. Yeah, they just open up, and then they start to work in the places where God's calling to work because they feel aligned
mhm.
with who they are in their relationships, and it's so beautiful. The second thing that healthy people do is they manage their emotions.
Mm.
So if they're grieving, they process and they work through that grief to recover.
Mhm.
Um, when they're resentful, they recognize I have a problem, because resentment causes us emotionally to react to other people.
Mm.
Like like a pop bottle that's
Mhm.
shaken and it explodes. I've had that before. It goes right to the ceiling, by the way, Noble, and it makes a mess on the ceiling. Well, our emotions can be like that, where they kind of explode all over. And
Mhm.
so when a healthy person sees that, oh, I am resentful, they recognize I've got some unforgiveness in my life,
Mm.
especially we as followers and believers in Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
We're told to forgive, but we're not always told how to do that.
Mhm.
And so there are exercises and some prayers that we can work through that unforgiveness that we feel to get to that other place where we've forgiven. And it's
Mm.
about releasing that resentment, to
Mm.
to not hold God as the judge, and
Absolutely.
to let go and let God be the judge, and we do our own part and live our own lives.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so healthy people recognize where they need to work on their emotions to be
Mhm.
able to manage their emotions. This is maturity. In
Mhm.
healthy relationships, they're mutual.
Mm.
So it's not all one-sided where I'm doing all the giving, I'm doing all the talking,
Mhm.
all the sharing, or I'm doing all the listening. It's mutual, where we're mutually caring for each other.
Mhm.
Um, just recently, Noble, I cracked my ribs.
Whoa.
So I've been in a lot of pain, and
Wow.
I'm 3 weeks in now, so I'm just halfway through my healing.
Wow.
And so my husband has been doing everything.
Oh.
I can do nothing. And so there are times where one person carries more weight than the other person, and
Mm.
it's okay. We'll go back to being a little more mutual where I'll be carrying some of the weight. So in healthy relationships, we're mutual, but then we also share the load,
Mm.
right?
So true.
And in that commitment, it's kind of like a long range commitment where I see, like maybe I carry more of the load for a time. There are seasons where my husband's really busy and I have felt like a single parent and I've
Mhm.
raised our kids alone in those seasons. But I do that because in my commitment, I have a long range and I see that when he's finished with his busy season, he'll come back again and pick up
That's
again
it.
and it'll
Mm.
be more mutual.
Mm.
That's healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then underneath all of that, we talked about how a person who's unhealthy, they won't change.
Mhm.
In healthy relationships, we're on a personal growth program.
Mm. That's a good one. Wow.
And we're always working at change.
Mm.
And we allow the other person to influence us in good ways.
Mhm.
Like when my husband allowed me to share with him, look, that's the look right there. That's the
Mhm.
look that it hurts. And we allow the other person to influence us in healthy ways.
That is so incredible. This is powerful, like so powerful. And I just really want to thank you for sharing this. I read something on your website and I just really want you to throw in more lights to it. You said just because you love each other doesn't mean you learned the communication skills you need to connect. So I just really want you to throw more light on this.
Yes. So, communication skills such as learning soft startups, such as learning to dialogue and not monologue.
Mhm.
Monologues about one person, dialogue about two, learning to listen deeply. That is the hardest skill in the world. I sometimes have to think about myself as pushing the mute button
Mhm.
just to listen. Two ears, one mouth, listen more than we talk.
Mhm.
And and then another really important skill is to learn to be assertive, not
Okay.
attacking, but not avoiding either.
Mm.
That skill of being able to say, feeling what I'm thinking and what it is I really want assertively, and then not to being so tied to my own opinion that I can't hear what the other person has to say
Mm.
when it's
That's a
different
good
than what I want to hear.
Mm, that's so true. And
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 then
and this way could just be more like teachable, right? Because when we're teachable, we're not really like so attached to our own opinion. And yeah, okay.
absolutely, when we're teachable, I love that word. Noble, I make it my lifelong part of my lifelong journey to be teachable and to learn from
Mhm.
anyone, whether it's my grandchildren or whoever it is. And the last thing that I encourage our people to do is to look for we solutions, like win-win solutions,
Mhm.
and to consider, especially their partner, not as an enemy.
Mm,
If we move into that resentment piece, we start to see them as our enemy. And I say, look to them as a part of the solution.
that's incredible.
So that we can have a win-win solution to whatever problem it is that we're working through, because we're always working on something, right? There's always something going on. Right now we're working on getting me back to health again. Yeah. So those are some really great skills that we needed to learn in our marriage and in our relationship, is not to be afraid of conflict,
Mhm.
and to see it as our friend, and to embrace it, and to learn to do it in healthy ways, to be
Mhm.
able to communicate effectively so that we could create those win-win solutions, so that we can feel like we're on the same page and on the same team, so that I hear women say they want to feel cherished
Mhm.
and loved. And so those are some great skills. And I love to talk about it as skills. Um, we were bankrupt when it came to skills, and we needed to learn skills. The wonderful thing about that word is it's something that we can all learn if we are that teachable that you
Absolutely.
talked about
Mhm.
earlier. We can learn those skills to become better in relationships, for better forever. That's our company.
Yeah, that's so. I really love that name, for better, forever. Awesome. Quickly, like, what would you advise, just one sentence or just one word, what would you advise a couple who is really going through their phase right now? And they're just in that place of struggle. It's basically a challenging time for them at this particular moment. What would you tell them to do?
I would give them an exercise.
Okay.
And this is the exercise. Write out, what am I like to live with?
Okay.
Write a paragraph, what I like to live with, about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then ask 3 people to write out the same. What am I like to live with?
Mm,
Ask them that question. What am I like to live with? And then compare notes. What is
okay.
true? What is really true about what am I like to live with? To take responsibility for who they are and their part in the relationship, because one person can make a difference in relationship. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. Wow. This is so incredible. I just want to really thank you for sharing this great wisdom. Like, really, thank you. And I often ask this question to all my podcast guests. I just want to ask you this question. What would you tell your younger self? Let's say you knew all of this wisdom when you were much younger.
I wish, Noble, I wish. I would say don't be afraid to be you.
Mm,
Embrace the you that you are and unwrap it, and live every day to the fullest. I really believe that it's important to live every day to the fullest, whatever that day looks like.
thank you. That's such a good one. Don't be afraid to be you. Absolutely. That's incredible. And now tell us about, what you do, coaching services, whatever, anything. Do you have anything coming on? Do you have any book, any
Yeah.
recommendation, anything? Just really kind of like tell us a little more.
Well, thank you so much for asking that. I am currently have open spaces for coaching. I actually have a special right now, 2-for-1 coaching, and I love the one-on-one coaching. It's all virtual.
Mhm.
I also have a membership for Christian women who want to grow. It's really about equipping Christian women to be able to live aligned with their values.
Mhm.
And we are currently developing an online program as well, which I'm very excited about. So stay tuned for more on that online program. We
Mhm.
have several. We're doing pivotal conversations, how to be freely and authentically you in Christ, and how to learn, discover, and live your purpose are some of our
Mm,
programs that we are developing and working on.
nice. That would
Yeah.
be so incredible. Honestly, guys, I really highly recommend Anna because she's not just teaching what she read in the book. Like, she's actually teaching what she has, experienced, and she's sharing from her life story and especially her Christian journey and her work with God. It's been really incredible listening to you and learning from your great wealth of wisdom. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. And before I let you go quickly, do you have any last and final word for my audience?
I want to encourage your audience if they are struggling in their relationships that one can make a difference and that taking responsibility for who you are, what you say and what you do, growing from that, and then you can better see the other person and what's really going on the other side.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. So much. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Noble. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's a pleasure to be here on the Beautifully Broken podcast.
Thank you. Wow, what an incredible episode. I hope you've been blessed by this episode. Please be sure to subscribe so that you'll be the first to know when we upload a new episode. And please feel free to also tell a friend if this episode has greatly inspired you. You can visit us at thebeautifully.brokenme.com. You can also send us an email at nobleij@nobleij.com. We're also on social media at The Beautifully Broken Me. Thank you for listening. Stay blessed. Be well.